right, 9:33, and we have some more on some breaking news we shared earlier this hour. The satirical news site The Onion won the auction to purchase Alex Jones' InfoWars. Now, that announcement comes from the families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims. They say they support the sale. The Onion told the New York Times that it's going to relaunch the website in January with backing from the group Every Town for Gun Safety. It's going to apparently be a parody of itself. InfoWars was forced to go to auction because Jones owes the Sandy Hook families more than $1 billion for calling the school shooting a hoax.
Welcome everyone to the nation's Conspire channel. You really can't make this stuff up. We're living in an actual satire. I've talked about InfoWars going into bankruptcy, selling itself. It's likely that Alex Jones will be placed in Donald Trump's political cabinet anyway. It seems like that's what the plan has been from the get-go. And this makes perfect sense in the clown world that we live in, because if you don't know, Alex Jones is the definition of what COINTELPRO is. He is the agent in place from the Illuminati card game. This has been discussed going back to the 90s, so anybody who's new to this quote-unquote movement of conspiracies, or should I say an awakening, should know that Alex Jones has been called out going back to Bill Cooper calling him out as a government agent in the 90s. There's plenty of videos out there that prove that Alex Jones is a government agent. The fact that Alex Jones was censored and allowed himself to be censored really put the protocols in place for all of us to be sued in court, to lose everything we own because we talk about topics that the media doesn't want us to talk about. In other words, when Alex Jones was sued by the Sandy Hook parents, all he had to do was say he didn't believe it. And why didn't he believe it? Well, he could have said, I don't believe it because I didn't see any actual evidence. All I heard was you talking about it on the news without showing me evidence. You just showed me parents. You didn't show me a trial. How come when we see actual murders take place, even if we know the person is 100% guilty because they found him at the scene with blood on his body, there's still actual trials? But they don't want an actual trial, and that's why, of course, none of these shooters who are all Manchurian candidates ever lived to talk about it, because a dead man can't tell any lies, right? So, of course, instead of going to court and bringing up topics that would make even people out there who are very angry and upset about anybody questioning the news, bring up topics like, hey, shouldn't we have a trial? Hey, I didn't see any evidence of anything. I just heard parents talk, which automatically would suck you into a psychosis and make you feel very upset about what occurred. But don't we need an actual trial? Don't we need actual evidence presented to us? Or are we just going to let the news create news so that we give up our rights? That's what Alex Jones could have done. Of course, he didn't do it. And that should have been the icing on the cake for everybody out there. That should have been the thing where people said, hey, you know what? There's something to this talk of Alex Jones being a government asset. But of course, what have they done with Alex Jones to make people sympathize with him? Now, Alex Jones is an entertainer, so of course a lot of people are drawn into Alex Jones. He tickles your ears. He talks some truth. There's no doubt about it. But people should have went back to the Bohemian Grove footage from the get-go and said, how did Alex Jones get into Bohemian Grove and film it? And how did Alex Jones live to release a movie on it? Because they wanted him to do it. Because at the time, it gained him credibility as the face of conspiracy. And that was the point. And then years later, when Alex Jones was thrown off of platforms like YouTube, it was all done by design because it didn't affect Alex Jones. In fact, it helped Alex Jones. It helped InfoWars. It helped them because it made them look like they were being victimized. While the rest of us were getting thrown off of platforms and having to rebrand ourselves, Alex Jones was getting thrown off of YouTube. But at the same time, Alex Jones is talked about almost every day on the mainstream media and the national news. And he's a guest on major platforms like Joe Rogan's show, and he talks with Tucker Carlson. And this continues to get Alex Jones support to his website. So it didn't affect Alex Jones at all being removed from the platform, but they have to victimize these people to make it look like they're telling all truth and nothing but the truth. But in fact, what COINTELPRO is it's these agents that are put in place and they do things like Jones has done, right? Everybody looks at people like me and you and they say, oh, you're like an Alex Jones wannabe, or you sound like Alex Jones, or you must listen to Alex Jones. And that's the point. So then what does their brain automatically do? It thinks that we're all lunatics because all people think about is Alex Jones ripping his shirt off on his show, Alex Jones screaming hoax, 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 without actually sounding reasonable and asking for evidence and presenting why he was questioning the news in the first place and making people say, oh yeah, I understand now. We shouldn't just take the news verbatim because we don't necessarily trust the news. Democrats don't trust Fox News, just like Republicans don't trust NBC and CNN, etc. So why would it be out of the question of possibilities for the mainstream media to simulate the news? Well, it's not, because they do. And this makes perfect sense. This is what the video is about. So Alex Jones, your agent in place, and this summarizes our clown world that we live in. Alex Jones forced to sell InfoWars by design. And who's going to buy InfoWars? InfoWars, remember, probably the most known quote-unquote news source for conspiracy. It doesn't mean that there isn't truth on InfoWars. Of course there is. How else would they lure people in? What does he not talk about? He talks about the left-right like it's real, and he supports whom? He supports that place that became a state in 1948 called Israel. And that's part of what this COINTELPRO operation is about. Little bits of truth while being assets to the government. So he set the precedent with all of us being able to be sued for talking about a topic. If we're questioning a topic that comes across the news, that's what the entire trial was. Somehow he owes $1 billion to these people, which is laughable. And then who comes in and purchases InfoWars? Not some media group, The Onion. And for those of you who don't know what The Onion is satire news. Now, nobody knows how The Onion is even in business anymore. I can't remember the last time I've seen anything from The Onion. Maybe in the early 2000s was the last time I remember seeing The Onion make mock articles. So what The Onion does is they take stuff and they make mockery news articles. They pretend to be news, but they talk in satire. So doesn't that make perfect sense? That now people are going to go to InfoWars. And what's going to be on InfoWars? It's going to be them mocking conspiracy theorists. Then you might say, what? That's going to ruffle your feathers because they're mocking the stuff you're talking about, like weather modification or 5G or any of that stuff? No, my feelings won't be hurt. But why it's important for them to do that is because when they use humor and they mock truth, it works. It's the best form of mind control that they use. It's the strongest form of mind control that they use. It's not even funny, and they know it's not funny. But if they get people to see it and they have an audience laughing or the way they present it, it makes the stuff that we talk about seem completely insane. And that's why they chose to give InfoWars the largest, potentially the largest conspiracy channel / network that there is. Everybody knows of Alex Jones and InfoWars. Whether they know they're COINTELPRO or not, they know of them. And every person I'm sure you talk to about this stuff, when they hear you talk about it, they probably say, oh, you're into that Alex Jones-like stuff. What do you listen to, InfoWars, right? Somebody you might just mention at a water cooler somewhere, you might bring up a conspiracy. They might say, oh, do you listen to too much Alex Jones, right? Done by design. And so is this. Who now owns The Onion, you might ask? Well, a guy by the name of Jeff Lawson owns The Onion, and he bought The Onion. Nobody knows why he would buy The Onion. It was pretty much bankrupt and out of business, and he bought it for a lot of money. And of course, what does he look like? Oh, right. It looks like he's had his fair share of bagels as well. And he recently has talked about on his platform how they need to take stronger stands against hate speech. How convenient, right? So let's see what the mainstream media is saying. Satirical news site The Onion won the auction to acquire conspiracy theorist Alex Jones's InfoWars. The Onion's bid was backed by the families of 8 victims of the Sandy Hook Elementary School event and 1 first responder. It also will have an exclusive advertising deal with the gun control group Everytown for gun safety. CNN was first to report the humor website had entered the bidding. The purchase acquires the company's intellectual property, including its website, customer lists, and inventory, and certain social media accounts, as well as the production equipment used to put Jones on the air. The amount of the bid was not announced because it was handed to them, clearly for free. And Alex Jones was okay with handing it to them. And I guarantee you, Alex Jones will probably have some part or some role in this circus that we're seeing assembled in front of us that is Donald Trump's political cabinet, with every single major actor you could possibly imagine that we've been seeing over the last 4 years make fools of themselves in Congress, being at the face and the front of the MAGA movement here, the Trump political cabinet, which is going to bring America to its knees. And it's very clear that that's what this is set up to do. It's set up to blame Christian conservatives for the destruction of America. But the new CEO of The Onion, Ben Collins, says The Onion's proud to acquire InfoWars And we look forward to continued its storied tradition of scaring the site's users with lies until they fork over their cold hard cash, or Bitcoin will also accept Bitcoin. And Ben Collins, of course, you could look at him, you could wonder what Ben Collins believes in, another Synagogue of Satan member. And they say in order to make the bid work, the families agreed to forego a portion of their recovery to increase the overall value of the Onion's bid, enabling its success, right? How convenient. How convenient. Right? Nobody even mentions the fact that Alex Jones literally was sued for $1 billion. And he went to court and he laid down. He didn't even try to fight to save it. He came out on TV because people questioned him, or on his website, people questioned the fact that he laid down. Like they said, well, I was told by my lawyer to lay down. If you're getting sued for $1 billion, it'd be very easy to say, well, if I have an opinion that's different from what the news says, I shouldn't be sued over it. I want evidence, and then I'll form an opinion. I mean, the whole notion of you're not allowed to believe a news story is fake is absolutely incredible. And it's even more incredible that people actually fight against people who question the news, as if the news is your best friend, or as if the news is 100% source of journalism, when they've proven they're nothing but state-run fake media to strip you of your rights. So, of course, the families foregoed the money they were never going to get in the first place so that the Onion could own InfoWars. Then InfoWars could have the mailing list of anybody who might have been a fringe conspiracy theorist, which would mean a fringe, on the verge of an awakening. And they're going to bombard them with emails about how all this stuff is fake and it's a psychosis and you don't need to actually wake up. And then the more they make a mockery of it, the more truth gets watered down. The more that'll show up in the search engine before anything that we talk about shows up in a search engine. So if somebody's looking for information about weather modification, well, don't worry. You'll find the Onion's article, and then they'll talk about all these things with hurricanes. They'll make a mockery of it. They'll mention things probably like Sharknadoes are being reported. And everybody's brain, they don't realize how they process this stuff. Once they start satiring all of it, it's almost impossible for your brain to actually accept the truth of what a lot of us are saying, which is why you always see Colbert and these guys wear tinfoil hats. Why do you think that's become such a big thing? The tinfoil hat wearer conspiracy, right? Everybody's like, oh, you're wearing a tinfoil hat. They don't even know what it means. They don't even know about frequencies and what any of us are actually talking about when it comes to, microwaving your brain with all of the radiation exposure that's around us. They don't have a clue. They're just like, oh, they wear tinfoil hats in their basement and they live in their grandma's basement. They don't even realize that whole perception was formed in their mind from the mainstream media, from the government themselves, to make sure that you don't ever wake up to what they're actually doing to you. Then when you do wake up and you go, why is everybody around me getting cancer? Why is everybody around me sick? Why is everybody around me depressed? Why is the world so insane? Oh, right, because you weren't paying attention to what people like us were telling you the government was actually doing, because you don't know about government patents, you don't know about what the government actually does, what the CIA actually does, all these projects that they do like MK Ultra, Project Mockingbird, everything, right? It's right there for everyone to see. So they need things like this to blast out into people's minds because they know people can't think further than they can spit. So they'll see stuff like this in the Onion. Oh, it's so funny talking about weather modification. So then when we start talking about all these hurricanes that are happening, that are weather modification, geoengineering is being used, well, they're going to get fed stuff about, I wouldn't be surprised they do a video and they say, oh, yeah, they're saying chemtrails. Let's go outside. And they'll show, somebody dumping cereal from the sky. And they'll make a big joke about it. And then people just start accepting the fact that there's chemtrails in the sky every day, even though they don't even notice that they're there because they never look up and pay attention to what's going on around them. So how fitting is it that InfoWars literally was sold to the Onion? Could you have picked... if you were going to sit there and say, okay, InfoWars is going to go out of business. They said, no, we're not going to put it out of business. We're going to sell it to somebody. other than saying it was sold to like George Soros or Bill Gates, this is just absolutely comical. And then, of course, conveniently, all the parents, all the government operatives who were involved in the event decide to forego a lot of the cash that they're owed because they're not shallow. They're not doing it for money. They're doing it to get the message out about gun control, right? So they forego all the money and then they let the Onion buy it because nobody knows in the first place how the Onion would have the money to buy InfoWars, right? Because that should be the first thing people are asking. How is the Onion making money? Nobody knows how the Onion's making money. No one's buying subscriptions to the Onion. Nobody even knew the Onion was still around anymore, right? So then they tell, the parents are giving up because they're good people who care about gun control. They're going to give up all these millions of dollars so that the Onion could buy InfoWars, because most people should know that the Onion would never be able to afford it in the first place. So how apropos is all of this, right? Alex Jones laid down for it. Of course, he continues to go out there and yell about it and say, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that this doesn't happen. Yeah, you didn't do anything in court. You just proved everybody's point in court about you being a government asset. okay? You're a government asset because you create the stereotype of what we're all looked at every single time you go on TV and you rip your shirt off and you act like a maniac. You never make valid claims when you're doing interviews with any of these mainstream news outlets. They're still allowed to be talked about in the mainstream, just like Trump, right? How convenient. They tell you not to vote for Trump. They tell you not to support Alex Jones. They keep putting them in the mainstream, right? Wouldn't you not ever mention Donald Trump? You wouldn't even know he was on the ballot if the mainstream media didn't mention him every second of every day and then martyr him in the open, knowing that it would make people support him and then want to vote for him. Same with Alex Jones. If they really wanted to silence him, there's a lot more they could have done. But this made perfect sense. When it happened, I told everybody why they were doing it, and everybody out there should know why they're doing it. This is the precedent that's been set. If you talk about certain things online, if you question news stories and people's feelings get hurt and you call them actors, we're going to sue you. So they used it as a fear tactic to make sure you don't question news stories that are occurring, that are especially ones that revolve around schools. And of course, all of the sheeple automatically side with the families because they can't grasp the fact that the government owns the media, manipulates the media, and the news itself is fake. It's a simulation. That's what it is. They make news stories so they can strip you of your rights. That's all the stuff you hear about hate speech, so that people start saying we need to change the laws about hate speech and bullying, and all the stories you hear about guns. Oh, we need to change that. Oh, we need a surveillance state. Oh, all the criminals that are running amok every single day. Well, we need to change that. Well, what can we do? We can put cameras in every street. Oh, yes, do. Those are the things that they want in the first place. So they're trying to get you to accept it by putting these news stories out there to manipulate you. This entire thing is so comical at this point. This is like the watered down Q movement, right? The Q movement, these people who were asleep their entire lives, and it's okay because most of us were asleep for a long time, right? Then they started to wake up. And the government created their own movement called Q. And the whole purpose of it was to get you to follow it so that they could give you government-created honeypots. They could make stuff up, give you flight logs and all this stuff so you can go down a rabbit hole that's simulated, that's make-believe. It doesn't mean some of the people that they're looking at, like Epstein and Trump, that they're not involved in this stuff, but they're government-created honeypots. That's the point. So people are, I'm awake, I'm Q. You see how people come to my channels and they're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's got 20,000 subscribers. You know, all of us who were actually waking people up years ago, who had millions of subscribers, all of us combined, there's a huge movement, have all been thrown off. You've all been silenced. Nobody even remembers half of our names anymore. And all these people that think they're awake now don't realize that they're not really awake. You're not red pill. The red pill, by voting Republican, means that you're just as big of a sucker as anybody out there voting for a Democrat who's blue pill. You're in a simulated reality still because politics are fake. It's the ultimate way to prevent an actual revolution of the people, to get you to continue to support government-owned puppets. That's what they all are, including Jones. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.